What's up everybody, and welcome to another Pokemon Theory, redone. That's right. For my theory today, I'm actually going to be revisiting an older theory that I made almost a year ago. The theory was on who the other trainers from Pallet Town are. In the anime, we know about both Ash and Gary leaving on their adventure, but two other trainers also left alongside them. At the time, I missed a lot of information that coincided with this theory, so now that I'm redoing this theory, I'll be able to include all of that information and much more that I've found as well. First things first, this theory is about the Pokemon anime, not the games or the manga. In the games, only Red and Blue or Leaf and Blue set off on their adventure from Pallet Town. There are no other trainers that leave with them. In regards to the Pokemon Adventure / Special manga, Trainer Red, Blue, and Green all obtain a starter Pokemon from Professor Oak and depart on their adventure from Pallet Town. Both the games and manga answer who all the trainers that left Pallet Town are, but the Pokemon anime does things a little bit differently. The anime never actually shows or tells us who the other trainers that took starters from Pallet Town are, besides Ash and Gary. Professor Oak, Gary, and Ash mention them several times throughout the course of the first season, but after the second season begins, these two mysterious trainers are never mentioned again and are ultimately pushed into the shadows of theories and speculation. To start off, let's look at what we know about them. We know that Ash got Pikachu as a starter, Gary got Squirtle, and that these two trainers presumably took Charmander and Bulbasaur respectively. In order to help organize them a little better, I'm going to be dubbing the trainer that got Charmander as Trainer A, and the trainer who took Bulbasaur as Trainer B. Unfortunately, there's really not much information about Trainer A and Trainer B that we get. In the second episode of the anime, after Ash has his electrifying experience, he goes to the Pokemon Center where Professor Oak calls him to check on his journey's progress. While on the phone, Professor Oak makes the first mention of the other trainers that we hear. He says, "The other Pokemon trainers made it there with no problem, and I'm pleasantly surprised you got there so soon." While at first glance this might seem like useless information, it actually does give us some nice confirmations. It confirms that both Trainer A and Trainer B are Pokemon trainers who are presumably going on a similar adventure to Ash and Gary and are trying to collect 8 gym badges and enter the Pokemon League. The next mention of the trainers comes 2 episodes later in episode 4, Challenge of the Samurai. In the episode, Ash meets a young samurai trainer who has made it his life mission to battle every new trainer from Pallet Town. The samurai says that he fought with the 3 other trainers from Pallet Town and was beaten by them. Once again, it might not seem like this is incredibly relevant information, but at the very least, it's confirming that up until now, all of these trainers are going on the same path through Viridian City and Viridian Forest, because they've all fought the samurai who lives in Viridian Forest. Let's jump to the next reference of Trainer A and B now, which comes from episode 7, The Water Flowers of Cerulean City. In the episode, Ash and company go to the Cerulean Gym so that he can earn his Cascade badge. Misty's sisters are the gym leaders at the time, and they talk about how they were beaten 3 times in a row by trainers from Pallet Town. They decide to just give Ash the badge without a battle because their Pokemon are so tired from fighting. While once again, this may not give us any sort of new information, it does confirm that Gary and the other trainers are ahead of Ash and are, at the very least, going to many of the same towns and getting many of the same badges as Ash is. If I have my facts correct on this one, and hopefully I do this time or else I'll have to make a 3rd video on this theory, then the reference of them at the Cerulean Gym is the last reference we get of Trainer A and Trainer B for 58 episodes. Way up in episode 65, Showdown at the Poke Corral, Ash returns back to Pallet Town with 8 badges in his pocket and a whole lot of confidence. He goes to see Professor Oak, who tells him the last bit of information on Trainer A and Trainer B. Professor Oak says, 4 Pokemon trainers left Pallet Town on their Pokemon journeys, but you and Gary have earned the most badges and I'm very proud. Ash, being slightly confused by this, asks Professor Oak what happened to the other trainers. Professor Oak responds by saying that both got off to an excellent start, but they just didn't have the skill. And that's it! With over 850 episodes of the Pokemon anime, we only get a handful of references, and they're all only contained in the first season. With such little information, is it even possible to definitively say who the trainers are? Honestly, I don't think it is, but that's never stopped people from making theories and speculating on who they might have been. There are a couple of theories on who these mysterious trainers are, and most of them are based on appearances of the starters they took. Because Damian has a Charmander and Melanie is caring for a stray Bulbasaur, many people have theorized that these are trainers A and B respectively. Let's go over Damian first. In my original video on this theory, I said that Damian was unlikely to be one of the trainers, but after revisiting this theory, I think that it might be a little more plausible. For those who don't remember Damian is the trainer who left his Charmander out in the rain. Ash eventually comes to care for it, and soon has a brand new Pokemon and friend. Initially, I dismissed this theory on Damian being Trainer A because neither Ash, Brock, nor Misty recognized him. Looking back on it now, I can't believe I was this ignorant on the theory. Regarding Ash recognizing him, I originally looked to Pallet Town and its size. Pallet Town is very small, and I have no doubt that if Damian was a resident of Pallet Town, then Ash would recognize him. What I failed to take into account, however, is that Damian could have traveled from another town or city in Kanto to Pallet Town to receive his starter. As we all know, regional professors are responsible for handing out starter Pokemon to beginning trainers. Because Professor Oak is living in Pallet Town, it would make sense for beginning trainers not in Pallet Town to travel there to receive a starter Pokemon. We've actually seen evidence of trainers traveling to get their starter Pokemon in the Diamond and Pearl season of the anime, where Dawn lives in LITTLEROOT Town, but has to go to Sandgem Town to receive her starter from Professor Rowan. I think it's entirely possible that Damian could have lived somewhere other than Pallet Town, such as maybe Viridian City or even Celadon City, and just traveled to Pallet Town to receive his starter Pokemon. This would definitely explain why Ash wouldn't know or recognize him when they meet. The next reason I dismissed the theory of Damian being Trainer A in my original video was because neither Brock nor Misty recognized him. Looking at that reason again, I'm ashamed to say that I was dead wrong, and it's entirely possible that Brock and Misty wouldn't recognize him. In the case of Misty, she was never a gym leader at the time that both Trainer A, Trainer B, and Gary came to the Cerulean Gym. She was with Ash at the time, and her sisters were the gym leaders, which is backed up by them saying that they were beaten 3 times in a row by trainers from Pallet Town. This would explain exactly why Misty wouldn't recognize him at all if he was indeed Trainer A. Moving on to why Brock wouldn't recognize him, I made a very dangerous assumption in the first video that the Kanto in the anime has an identical layout to the Kanto in the games. This would make it so that if you went through Viridian Forest, like all of the Pallet Town trainers did, then you would have to go through Pewter City next, and then Cerulean City afterwards. The problem with this, though, is that the anime version of Kanto is laid out much differently than the games. Without going too in-depth on this altered Kanto layout, many of the cities and routes are rearranged differently, and brand new anime-only routes, cities, and gyms are added into this version of Kanto. It can almost feel like a completely different region when compared to the Kanto of the games. Because the anime has so many brand new locations and routes, it's possible that there could have been another road from Viridian Forest that led to Cerulean City. It's also possible that maybe Damian just didn't battle Brock. If he indeed chose a Charmander as his starter, then fighting a Rock-type gym leader first was probably a greater challenge than he wanted. There's many different possibilities on what could have happened, and no matter what, it's entirely possible that Brock wouldn't have seen Damian. I'm not going to say that Damian being the trainer that took Charmander is confirmed or true, but it's definitely more likely than I thought it was originally. Alright, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Melanie in regards to being Trainer B. I don't think it's very likely that she is Trainer B. In the single episode she appears in, she runs a sort of hidden village where she takes care of injured and abandoned Pokemon. One of the abandoned Pokemon is a Bulbasaur that has volunteered to protect all of the injured Pokemon in the village. From the way the episode talks about Melanie, it makes it sound like she's been running this hidden village for a while, so it wouldn't make sense for her to be a starting trainer who received a Bulbasaur. What I do think is likely, however, is that the Hidden Village Bulbasaur is the same Bulbasaur that Trainer B got. Melanie never says how long the Bulbasaur has been protecting the village, so it's possible that it could have been the Bulbasaur that Trainer B got as a starter, but just abandoned. There's not much evidence to back this up, but it would make a little bit of sense considering that it's said that both Trainer A and Trainer B gave up on their adventures due to lack of skill. And that's kind of the redone part compared to my original theory. I really didn't think everything through regarding Damian and Melanie in the last video, but I think that I cover most of the new information I found in this video. There is one other theory on who the trainers are that I'd like to address before ending this video. No, I'm not going to be going over Jimmy again in this video, but rather, I want to touch on the possibility that Red is Trainer A and took Charmander. There are many comments on my previous video saying that Red took Charmander. I believe that most of these comments are a response to Pokemon Origins, which featured Red receiving a Charmander as his starter. In all honesty, I never actually considered Red to be a possibility to be one of the trainers that got a starter alongside Ash. In the anime, Ash is supposed to be the counterpart to Red, in the same way that Gary is the counterpart to Blue. Because these characters are counterparts to each other, I don't think it's possible that they could be in the same universe as one another. Red has only had one anime appearance, and that was in the Pokemon Origins special, which goes alongside the video games canon and not the mainline animes. That being said, one could argue that Red and Ash are different enough characters that it's possible they could coexist in the anime, with Red receiving Charmander. If that's the case, however, then this version of Red would have to be extremely different from the classic Red we all know. Professor Oak said that the two trainers gave up because they didn't have the skill. So if Red was one of those trainers, then he would have to be much different than the Red we know, which many people consider to be the best and most skillful trainer out there. It might be possible that Red could exist in the mainline anime universe, but I don't think it's possible that he was one of the trainers that received a starter alongside Ash. This has been a quick look at who the other trainers that might have left Pallet Town alongside Ash and Gary might have been. Damian seems much more plausible than I originally thought, and Melanie and Red are less likely in my opinion. Hopefully I covered this theory a little better than my previous video, and feel free to comment with any info I might have missed, or with who you think these mysterious trainers might be. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.